So good morning, Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Energy and Resources Institute, welcome to the World Sustainable Development Summit 2020. And first, I would like to invite Mr. Desai to say a few words of welcome.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Mr. Javadekar, Mr. Jeffery, Sachs, and all of the distinguished people who are present here, we welcome you to the 20th edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit, which has been organized by TERI over the past 20 years. In many ways, it's a summit which has sought to try and give practical expression to the term sustainable development, which as a concept is a bridge concept, devised to connect the world of those who are interested in growth and development with the world of those who are basically involved in environment and conservation. But a bridge is useful only if people use it. If people from one side cross over to the other so that they can integrate the concerns of the other side into their own agenda. And that essentially is what sustainable development is about. And in many ways, what TERI has sought to do through these World Sustainable Development Summits is to find practical expression for this integration between development and environment, which lies at the core of the concept of sustainable development, to make sure that the bridge is properly and consistently used. The theme of the 20th Summit is the goals which we have been set for 2030, not just the climate goals, but the many other goals that have been set for 2030, particularly in the context of sustainable development goals. In many ways, these are attempts at trying to give practical expression to the idea of connecting development and environment. And in many ways, this is the purpose and aim of this particular session. So I'm sure over the next 3 days, there'll be lots of ideas which will come up, which will allow us to give practical expression to this integration of development and environment, which is at the core of sustainable development. I'm very happy to welcome the Honorable Minister, Mr. Javadekar, who has been involved in environment for many, many years now, and I look forward to his suggestions, advice on how we can secure this integration in the context of the goals we've set for 2030. I'm particularly happy to welcome Professor Jeffery Sachs, who has been a great supporter of this summit. He has always participated in it, sometimes most often in person and sometimes by video. And more than that, he's an economist who has connected economics and ecology at the conceptual level and in terms of practical policy suggestions. So I'm particularly happy to welcome Professor Jeffery Sachs to this edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit, and all of you and I look forward to what you will have to tell us about how we can give practical expression to the basic concept of sustainable development. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the next 3 days.
Thank you very much, sir. And we begin with the announcement of the Sustainable Development Leadership Award 2020. Now, this was introduced in 2005 to congratulate global leaders for their contributions in the field of sustainable development, and is now one of the most prestigious awards in this sector in the world. This year's award goes to someone who has excelled at championing the cause of sustainable development at the global, national and local level, with a special focus on the most vulnerable, and who has enabled the integration of sustainable development and climate change issues in all our policies and actions. And the winner of the 2020 Sustainable Development Leadership Award is Professor Jeffery Sachs. And I would now request the Honourable Minister to present the award and the dignitaries on the dais to join him in doing so.
Honorable Minister, Ajay, Mathur, Nitin, Desai, a dear colleague and a great leader, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a profound honor for me to be part of this wonderful and unique summit for 20 years. Time flies, and it seems really like a blink of an eye that this summit began and that we have been debating and learning and discussing each year in Delhi this challenge. I'm afraid we have not solved the problems yet. Indeed, I'm sorry to say we haven't even turned the curve in 20 years. We are all over the world and in every way still coming closer to dire environmental crisis. Now we have a new emerging disease that is terrifying the world, mega forest fires in many parts of the world that are devastating, air pollution beyond belief in this country, even with the struggles to control it, but absolutely dramatic. But you have in this summit the perseverance, the knowledge, the intelligence, the leadership of TERI, which is a world-renowned and great institution that is keeping up the fight, the challenge, and most importantly, the knowledge that we're going to need. So I'm going to have the pleasure to offer some thoughts about the geopolitics of this challenge tomorrow. I would say, unfortunately, we're stuck in politics rather than solutions, politics of the struggle for power kind rather than politics of the problem-solving kind. Until we move to politics of problem-solving, we're going to face ever-growing dangers in the world. It's a profound honor, but also challenge for me and for all of us here today to rededicate on the 20th anniversary of this summit for the fight ahead. We're going to be here for years to come. I look forward to attending. I think I've been here probably 19 of the 20 summits, and I'm committed to being here every year until we get this job done. So thank you so much for this great honor.
Thank you, Professor Sachs. I would now like to invite Dr. Mathur to make his introductory remarks.
Honorable Minister for Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, the Chairman of TERI, Mr. Nitin Desai, the winner of the 2020 Sustainable Development Leadership Award, Professor Jeffery Sachs, my colleague, Dr. Annapurna Vancheswaran, the organizer of this and all the past Sustainable Development Summits, honored ambassadors, delegates, guests, my colleagues from TERI. Welcome to this World Sustainable Development Summit 2020. I add my words of welcome to those of Mr. Nitin Desai, and in looking forward to 3 days of great discussion. As was mentioned, this year marks both the final 10-year period as we move towards the realization of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, which, as Professor Sachs mentioned, is still work which is in progress. As he said, we have not yet turned the curve. Restoring our ecosystems back to health is an important issue for us. This 2020 edition of the Sustainable Summit focuses on the need to assess the global contributions made and the next steps undertaken by the world community to meet the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreements. We are proud of the many collaborations and partnerships that have been fostered by the past summits and look forward to new ones that will be launched here in this summit. We will, for example, be launching the Indo-Swiss Partnership on Tackling Air Pollution and are delighted to host Seed India Hub, a collaboration of TERI with UN Environment, UN Development, and IUCN to support eco-inclusive entrepreneurship in India, making livelihoods in an ecologically viable sense is our greatest challenge and hope, if I may add. We will also be launching a series of papers, a consultation paper with a group of organizations interested in a zero carbon steel sector, following the path-breaking Mission Possible report from the Energy Transitions Commission. We will also be releasing a series of briefs on actions that can reduce air pollution and a report on floating solar, which we believe is the third pillar along with large-scale grid and rooftop solar in pushing solar at the center of our energy economy. We have also, as a new venture outside, completely upgraded the exhibition of new technologies and products. We are delighted that the Honorable Minister today has inaugurated the first edition of IFAT Delhi, which we co-locate here with the WSDS. IFAT Delhi is a production of Messe München and focuses on clean technologies in the water area, sewage, raw materials management, and so on, and provides you, thought leaders, innovators, and change makers, with yet another opportunity for networking, knowledge exchange, and partnership exploration. Colleagues, this WSDS is special. It marks 20 years of this platform. The journey that started in 2001 has over the years paved the way for nuanced discussions, focusing on issues of environmental import. And we here today, participants from 20 countries other than India, build on the past relationships that we have created. Colleagues, we look forward to building up, to strengthening past relationships, and to forging new ones. As we begin this summit, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a remembrance of summits past.
It was the turn of a new century. India became a nation of 1 billion people. Faced with unprecedented choice and opportunities. TERI too had turned 25. It knew that the environmental challenges of the 21st century demanded a new response. No country could solve them alone. And thus, TERI took the first step to bring together kindred spirits from around the world to share their ideas, zeal, and ambition for sustainable development. It launched the Delhi Sustainable Development Summit in 2001, and from here began a journey of 1,000 miles.
My only advice while inaugurating the major event is to recall Mahatma Gandhi's principle of Antyodaya, which means taking care of the last, of the most underprivileged and deprived.
As climate change impacts began unfolding in everyday lives, the summit held a mirror to the world, urging leaders to recognize ethics, equity, and science in creating a better world.
This year alone, we will dump 40 billion tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This is bigger than any movie.
There have been some role models in business that have shown us the way. They are insufficient at this stage. We need many more people coming across the board to really see how this could be actualized.
We need to address climate and development together and not against each other.
Successful climate action needs access to finance and resources and technology.
When the best minds come together, when every country, big or small, finds equal voice on a common platform, when governments, business, and civil society hear each other, ideas begin to drive action.
Good news is that something's happened in the last 10 years which has massively increased our confidence that we can decarbonize electricity at an affordable cost. India can, by 2030, achieve 30% variable renewable generation at no extra cost.
It is the last decade to fulfill the promise of the 2030 agenda. A lot of distance is yet to be covered. Until then, a growing community of committed global citizens will continue to meet in New Delhi to share and spread hope, courage, and action throughout the world.
India is not only the biggest democracy in the world, it is also a laboratory in many ways for the development solutions of tomorrow. But the fact that this summit happens here is testimony to the fact that India matters.
Inspiring stuff. Thank you, Dr. Mathur. May I now invite the Honourable Minister to kindly grace us with his inaugural address. Minister, if you please.
Mr. Sachs, whom we have rewarded for his selfless service in the sector, Nitin Desai, Ajay Mathur, Vancheswaran, and friends. I am today very happy to be here on your 20th edition because what TERI started became a worldwide topic of discussion. And I must congratulate TERI for carrying out environment-related issues with a mission zeal and spreading the message and bring out the problems to the fore very effectively to all the stakeholders. How you look at the climate change scenario? If you are doomsayer, world is going to collapse, world is going to docks. And as we know, in 2010, 10 years ago, there was millions of people were believing that by 2012, the world will be over. And there was one classical movie based on that theme also, 2012. World didn't doom, but the film did a roaring business. Because I'm not pessimist, I'm optimist. I saw the exhibition, which is side by, and I'll recommend that you also go and visit. Because if human actions have caused climate change, the same human acts, intelligence, intent will provide us solutions. And we can have glimpses of what technology, how people are trying for new technologies to overcome the problem. This is really a fight for the betterment of the world. And what today's topic is, SDG, is very important. Sustainable consumption and sustainable production, both together. Sustainably managing our natural resources, biodiversity, these are all aspects. So I believe that sustainable consumption comes first because it starts from ourselves. I was just seeing our annual consumption per head of electricity is just 1200 kilowatts per annum. In America, it is 12,000. We have just 25 cars per 1,000 population. Many countries are 600, 400, 600, 800 even. So one has to think about the sustainable consumption, and therefore our Prime Minister stresses on lifestyle. Are we ready to change little bit of lifestyle? At least for symbolic? At least to commit ourselves. But people don't want to change their lifestyle a bit. And they want science and technology to bring out solutions so they can continue with the consumption, unsustainable consumption, the way they are doing. It will not be, because we have only one planet. An ever-growing population, already 7+ billion, now we are moving towards 8 and 9 billion, so it's huge. And therefore, planet is the same. We have to take care of it. And therefore, sustainable consumption lifestyle was included in the preamble of Paris Agreement. And I think that is very important, because unless we achieve that sustainability in our consumption, you don't achieve sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goals are not just mathematics. What has happened after 30 years of Rio Conference? Today, on the backdrop of 1990, the world has reduced only by 0.5% annual emissions. It's shocking but true. We have to do much more. And this responsibility rests with the developed world first. But I don't see a great action on the part of developed world, because now people don't want even annexes to exist. All countries are same. It's a common but differentiated responsibility, which is important. But I was just calculating in 2009, in Copenhagen, this $100 billion of financial aid to the developing world was announced. Voluntarily. Nobody compared. Now 10 years, it's $1 trillion. It's $1 trillion. And what is on table is $10 or $20 billion. So unless we address the main issues of finance and technology, we cannot have a just world order where everybody practices sustainable. Because every climate action has a cost. And unless somebody foots the bill, we are taxing the poor people for sins done by somebody else. Those who became rich on the basis of more emissions, who did carbon emissions to a lot, now are reaping the benefits, and those who could not make the advantage of carbon emissions are now suffering a lot, and we want to tax them more. This cannot happen. And therefore, the other aspect of technology transfer is also important. Technology with innovation is a useful solution, but unless it becomes affordable, the third world countries won't be using it. And so there has to be more joint research, joint collaborations. if in internet era, if there is a open source, why there can't be open source for climate change innovations? We need this kind of approach so that if we want to, if we are tackling a disaster, then we should not profit from disaster. I appreciate that there is a cost to innovation, but that cost-based price is the real price for such innovations. And therefore, technology is an important aspect of how the world can move towards sustainable development goals to achieve it. We in India have done tremendous. Right now in the film it was shown that Australian fire, or Ajay Mathur mentioned, somebody mentioned. Fires in Australia destroyed 22 million hectares. In Canada also, it was huge. In California also, it was huge. And despite technologies, nobody could stop it. What do you say, climate change or natural way of extreme events? Whatever it is, I'm not going into that detail whether it is because of climate change or something, but as we say, the dry spell growing, this has a relationship with the changing weather pattern. I'm just wondering, Australia has also decided to cull 3,000 or 30,000 camels. In my country, farmers were troubled by a red bull because they were eating their crops. So we decided to have population control. There was hue and cry. Now culling also doesn't create that kind of response from animal lovers. We must have one yardstick to judge everybody. And therefore, we have taken many things in our stride and have progressed. We have taken the ambitious target of creating additional 2.5 billion tons of carbon equivalent by growing forest. And we are on the track. In last 4 years, probably India is the only country which has grown their tree cover within forest and outside forest by 13,000 square kilometers. It's huge. And we'll be doing it further because now we have released nearly $7 billion to all the states for aggressive afforestation. And we have made it a public movement. And we want to grow forests sustainably, and we are coming out with new concepts also. Public-private partnership or many other things where you do forest crop, grow forest, use forest, and grow more forest. That creates additional carbon sink, and we are importing 40,000 crore of rupees of wood and large amount of furniture. We will produce our own forest, and we will relax, for that matter, some rules which will allow use of the forest produce. We have a tremendous ecology, proven ecology. World's largest tiger population with 2,967, with 3,000 of rhinos, with 30,000 elephants, with more than 500 lions, and with tremendous amount of other wildlife. We have now nearly 780 protected areas in the country. This is also huge conservation efforts. And yesterday, we have got 10 wetlands of India cited in the Ramsar sites this year, recognized as Ramsar World Sites. This is the way, despite we having only 2.5% of the land mass, only 4% of natural rainfall, with 17% of human population and 18% of cattle population. Both require land and water and food. But still we are able to do this because it's our commitment, it's our life ethos. In India, we worship forest. We worship animals. That's oneness with the nature is the basic ethos of Indian lifestyle. And therefore, we are getting success in forest growth, and we will ensure that this will continue in next few years. As far as emissions are concerned, we have promised 30 to 35% of reduction of emission intensity, and we are on track. Even we will achieve more. Reducing emission intensity is not that cheap solution because you require new technologies to be used in the industrial production. And therefore, we are revising our emissions norms upward. But I have a simple solution to this. We call all stakeholders, cement industry. Today we are at 50. Best of the world is at 100. How much you are ready to move ahead? If they say 60, we fix it at 70. So that becomes a practical viable in two trenches. We can come to the best of the world scenario. And we are reducing very fast our energy intensity, our emission intensity. We are using energy efficient technologies for all kinds of activities, industrial and otherwise. We are pushing electric mobility. I'm also using, probably I'm the first minister to use electrical vehicles since it came, and I'm using it every day because that shows our commitment. The Clean Air program, a city-specific Clean Air program, is also part of the effort. We have revised waste management rules and come out with construction demolition waste management for the first time in India after independence. So we are moving ahead. Our solar target, 100 gigawatts when Prime Minister declared out of 175 gigawatts of renewable. People thought it's not possible, but yes, already 35 gigawatts are achieved, 35 are in the making, and we will achieve 100 gigawatt before 2022. That's a huge contribution of India, and now our Prime Minister has scaled it up to 450 gigawatts. So that is how we want to move ahead. We have not exploited more offshore, onshore wind energy. We are now moving in that direction. So, India is marching ahead on our targets of SDGs. Our biodiversity, which is so rich, we are mapping it. We are documenting it. And we will ensure that the biodiversity doesn't die, it grows. As far as reversing the land degradation, our Prime Minister has revised our target upward, And we have now decided to have 26 million hectares to be restored in next 10 years. 26 million hectares. It's huge. And therefore, we'll restore our land, we'll use water efficiently, we use your scarce natural resources efficiently, we'll have sustainable consumption, a sustainable production path on which India presents a new example of how to follow the multilateral treaties. My problem, Nitinji, is about multilateral treaties. Earlier, people were using all kinds of gases for cooling, refrigerators, air conditioners, and others. Then suddenly people came up with a solution. Oh, this is not the way forward because that depletes ozone. So adopt SCFC. So world converted into SCFC and developing world was provided finance for it. Then suddenly it started, oh, SCFC is very bad, now HFC is correct. Half the money was paid and half the money developing world bore, and then it was converted to HFCs. Now people are saying HFC is very bad, HFO is the way forward. And I recollect our one industrialist, Godrej, was always telling 20 years ago that HFO is the way forward. But nobody listened to him. And HFO, now converging to HFO without any foreign aid, is a challenge for developing world. But it's good that we have decided to have it. Recently, the particular ministry, energy ministry, has already issued a circular that in air conditioners, the minimum default temperature will be 24. This is important, it saves energy to a lot. In many parts of India, we get 17 degrees temperature of AC in many halls and occasions. I asked why it stops at 17, because below that it doesn't go. The default setting is on 17, now we are making it 24. So we are following what is expected of a country, a responsible country, to achieve sustainable development. I hope that today's seminar, 2 days seminar, with 21 countries' participation, will definitely brainstorm on the issues of how to pressurize all countries that they should follow a sustainable way of lifestyle, sustainable way of consumption, sustainable way of production, sustainable management of natural resources. If we do this, this conference will be a great success. And to that end, I wish all the best for the conference, and I'll take your leave because I have a cabinet meeting. So I'll attend that, and therefore, thank you and all the best.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister, for those inspiring and challenging words. I'd now like to invite Dr. Vancheswaran to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Martin. Shri Javadekar ji, Honorable Minister of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, on behalf of TERI, I would like to express our gratitude for your presence here today and in inaugurating this summit, which is very, very dear to us. We truly are grateful to you for adjusting your busy schedule to be with us, and thank you for that. In 2001, Minister, when we envisioned the platform, it was the assimilating knowledge and directions for the benefit of all, in particular for those whose voices were seldom heard. In the 2 decades, this platform has brought together powerful voices and intellectual inputs to ensure that the global community addresses head-on the challenges that you spoke of. Professor Sachs, while all of us wait to hear your keynote address tomorrow morning, let me share that there are only a few that we clamor for to have in our support and in the summit agenda every year. You certainly are one of them. Thank you very much for your support to the summit, and congratulations to you again for the Leadership Award. We owe the success to the support that we receive, to the summit, to the support that we receive every year from our partners. I will not be able to name individually, but we have proudly displayed them here, and I would like to express our deep gratitude and appreciation to each one of them. Our heartfelt thanks to all the speakers, both in thematics and plenaries, who shaped the summit discussions, as well as the august audience who this year have assembled from over 20 countries. Mr. Nitin Desai and Dr. Mathur, thank you both for your guidance and support at all times, and a very special thanks to all TERI colleagues for their collective effort in making the summit TERI's annual flagship event. We truly hope the discussions today and the next 2 days of the summit will set a path of action for the coming 10 years that would create a brighter future for the next generation and making the decade count. Thank you all. May I request Dr. Mathur to felicitate our minister?
Sir, what I look forward to is to mark the fact that we have limited time. And hence, what we would like to present is an hourglass, so that it represents that we have work to do, but limited time to do it.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the inaugural session.